From the best-selling author of the Bomber Mafia, find out about Malcolm Gladwell's groundbreaking first book and learn about the science behind popular trends in business, marketing, and how people act. The tipping point is that magical time when an idea, trend, or social behavior crosses a threshold, tips, and spreads like wildfire. Just as one sick person can start a flu outbreak, a small but well-placed push can start a fashion trend, make a new product popular, or lower the crime rate. This best-selling book by Malcolm Gladwell, in which he investigates and brilliantly explains the tipping point phenomenon, is already changing how people all over the world think about selling goods and spreading ideas. A great page-turner about an interesting idea that should change the way every smart person sees the world. Michael Lewis. Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Tipping Point: How Little Things Can Make a Big Difference, is about the idea of the tipping point, which is when a small change can have a big effect. There are 8 chapters in the book, and each one talks about a different feature of the tipping point. Chapter 1: The 3 Rules of Epidemics. This part talks about the 3 rules of outbreaks, which are the law of the few, stickiness factor, and power of context. Gladwell shows how these rules work together to create a tipping point and how they can be used in many different situations. Chapter 2: The Law of the Few. This part looks at the idea that connectors, mavens, and salesmen have a bigger effect on a tipping point than other people do. Gladwell gives examples of each type of person and explains how ideas and information can be spread with their help. Chapter 3: The Stickiness Factor. This part talks about the idea of stickiness, which is the idea that some ideas are easier to remember and have a bigger effect than others. Gladwell gives examples of how to make something sticky, such as by telling stories and giving simple, easy-to-remember lessons. Chapter 4: The Power of Context, Part 1. This part looks at how context affects a tipping point, including how small changes in the surroundings can cause big changes in behavior. Gladwell gives examples of how the power of context has been used in different scenarios, such as in New York City, to lower crime rates. Chapter 5: The Power of Context, Part 2. This part goes on talking about the power of context and how it can be used to make good changes in schools, workplaces, and other places. Gladwell gives examples of how small changes in the environment can lead to big changes in behavior and achievement. Chapter 6: Case Study, Rumors, Sneakers, and the Power of Translation. This section is a case study of how the Hush Puppies shoe brand hit its tipping point in the 1990s. Gladwell looks at how a small group of trendsetters helped spread the success of the shoes, which led to a larger change in culture. Chapter 7: Case Study, Suicide, Smoking, and the Search for the Unsticky Cigarette. In this section, we'll look at a case study of how anti-smoking campaigns in the U.S. hit the point of no return. Gladwell looks at how a number of things, such as the law of the few, stickiness factor, and power of context, led to a change away from smoking in culture. Chapter 8: Conclusion. This section wraps up the book by summarizing the key points and stressing how important it is to understand the tipping point if you want to make a difference in society. Gladwell tells his readers to think about how they can use the 3 rules of outbreaks in their own lives and work. Gladwell uses real-world examples and case studies to show how the ideas and tactics he describes work in the real world. He also talks about how important it is to understand the complicated interplay of factors that can lead to a tipping point, and how important it is to take a whole systems approach to making social change. The main goal of the book is to give people a way to think about how small things can make a big difference when it comes to making good change. Thanks for watching our Amazon book review. If you found our review helpful and you're interested in checking it out for yourself, we've included a link to it in the description below. By clicking on that link, you'll not only get more details about it on Amazon, but also support our channel at no cost to you. So go ahead and click that link to grab your copy of the book and dive into an exciting reading journey. Happy reading, and thanks for your support.